Welcome back, dear students. Today we will be doing part 5 of the chapter Human Reproduction, and the topic for today is menstrual cycle and fertilization. So let's begin. Let us first see what is menstrual cycle. The reproduction cycle in female primates, for example, monkey, apes, and humans, is called menstrual cycle. And the cycle of events starting from one menstruation to the next is also called menstrual cycle. Uh, as you know, in a human female, sexual cycle begins when a girl attains puberty, and menstruation is repeated at an average interval of 28 to 29 days. That means once a girl gets a menstruation, then there will be a gap of 28 to 29 days, and after that she gets a menstruation again. So that is what it means by an average interval of 28 to 29 days. And in the middle of each cycle, one ovum is released from either of the two ovaries. As you know that females have got two ovaries, so either of the two ovaries will be releasing or producing only one ovum. That means only one ovum can be produced in its menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle can be divided into 4 phases. These are the 4 phases: menstrual phase, follicular phase, ovulatory phase, and the fourth one is the luteal phase. Now let's see them one by one. First is menstrual phase. It lasts for around 1 to 5 days. So what happens here is it will mark the beginning of menstrual cycle. Here it will tell us, or it will mark the beginning of menstrual cycle, and it is characterized by menstrual flow, and it lasts for 3 to 5 days. And menstrual phase occurs due to breakdown of endometrial lining of uterus and its blood vessels. I have shown you the endometrial lining when we have discussed about the female reproductive system. So there I have shown you the endometrial lining of the uterus. So it will break down, and also the blood vessels. So that is why the menstruation takes place, or the menstrual phase begins. Therefore, menstrual fluid contains blood because the blood vessels break down. Therefore, the menstrual fluid contains blood, and the cells of endometrial lining and other unfertilized ovum also gets releases along with the blood. So, usually when a girl gets a menstruation, it is not just blood that comes out. Along with the blood, what else comes out? Um, the cells of the endometrial lining and the ovum that was not fertilized, or the unfertilized ovum, also comes out along with the blood. So that is menstrual phase. Next is the follicular phase. Okay, before we discuss about follicular phase, let me tell you one more thing about the menstrual phase. Menstrual phase occurs only if the released ovum by the two ovaries is not fertilized. Okay, as I've told you, there only one ovum is released by either of the two ovaries. So once this ovum is fertilized, no menstruation will take place. Now, if the ovum is not fertilized, then menstruation will take place. So failure of menstruation usually indicates pregnancy. So if a girl is not getting her menstruation, it usually indicates pregnancy, provided she has had sex with any man. But if she has not had sex, then it can also indicate some problems like due to mental and physical stress, or also because of poor health. Right? So now we will go to follicular phase. Follicular phase lasts for 6 to 13 days. So it extends, like in the menstrual phase, I've told you, it lasts for 1 to 5 days. So after the 5 days, from the 6th day starts the follicular phase, and it lasts for 13 days. And the following events take place in the follicular phase. What are the two events? Number one, the primary follicle in the ovary grows into a fully mature Graafian follicle. I've talked to you about the formation of primary follicle, how it changes itself into a secondary follicle and tertiary follicle, and how it ultimately turns into a mature Graafian follicle. So that also I have already told you when I've discussed oogenesis with you. And after that, what happens is endometrium of the uterine wall regenerates and ruptured blood vessels are repaired. I've told you that the endometrial lining of the uterus breaks down and the blood vessels also breaks down. But what happens in this follicular phase, the wall of the uterus and the blood vessels will regenerate and the blood vessels will be repaired. So these are the events that take place in the follicular phase. That means the changes during this phase are controlled by estrogens. The changes that is taking place here, these two changes that is taking place in this phase is controlled by estrogens. It is a hormone secreted by the ovary and the follicle cells of maturing Graafian follicle. The level of estrogens is maximum during follicular phase. That means large amount of estrogens will be released in this follicular phase, and it is maintained by the follicular stimulating hormone of the anterior pituitary, because it's the pituitary gland that will release the follicle stimulating hormones. And by the end of this follicular phase, what happens? The endometrium, I've told you, the endometrium uterine wall regenerates. That means it becomes 2 to 3 millimeters thick, and the endometrial glands become coiled and corkscrew shaped. Next, we have the ovulatory phase. This one is the 14th day. So the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone levels peak on the 14th day. After the follicular phase, follicular phase lasts up to 13 days. And this 14th day, what happens? This luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormones, their amount will increase and they will rise. And the maximum level of luteinizing hormone during mid-cycle, that is on 14th day, is called the LH surge, because the luteinizing hormone increases in number. So when it increases on the 14th day, it is known as the luteinizing hormone surge, or in short, we call it LH surge. So it indicates the rupture of the Graafian follicle, and it is here that the ovum will be released. So basically on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, the ovum will be released. How? Due to the rupture of the Graafian follicle. That is why this phase is known as the ovulatory phase, because ovulation takes place here. What do you mean by ovulation? Ovulation is nothing but the release of the ovum. So since release of ovum takes place here, it is known as the ovulatory phase. Next, the last phase, that is the luteal or the secretory phase. The period that follows ovulation is called the luteal phase. During this period, cells of ruptured Graafian follicle enlarge and form golden colored corpus luteum. It grows for about 7 days and secretes progesterone. So right after the ovulatory phase comes the luteal phase. In this period, what happens? The cells that has been ruptured from the Graafian follicle will increase in size, and they will form a corpus luteum that is golden in color. And it grows for about 7 days. That means the size will keep on growing for about 7 days, and ultimately it will secrete a hormone called the progesterone. In this level, the level of progesterone is controlled by the luteinizing hormone. In case ovum is not fertilized, then the corpus luteum that is being formed will degenerate into a white mass, and that white mass is known as the corpus albicans. And this corpus albicans will lower the level of progesterone in blood. So in case the ovum is not fertilized, then the corpus luteum will degenerate itself, and it will turn itself into a white mass, and that white mass is known as the corpus albicans, and this corpus albicans will lower the level of progesterone in the blood. And in case the egg is fertilized, then progesterone will further prepare the uterus for the anticipated pregnancy. I've told you in the beginning that if the ovum is fertilized, then it indicates pregnancy. So if the female is pregnant, then the progesterone will further work out or will prepare itself for the pregnancy that is being anticipated. And this phase is also called luteal phase, because corpus luteum is formed here, and this corpus luteum is functional only in this phase. So that is why it is known as the luteal phase. Let us see why is it called the secretory phase. It is called secretory phase because the uterine wall secretes some nutritious fluid in the uterus during this phase. That means the uterine wall that we were talking about will start secreting a kind of fluid that is very nutritious in the uterus. And the duration of this phase usually lasts for 14 days. That is from the 15th day to the 28th day of the menstrual cycle. This phase is sometimes also known as the progesterone phase because the progesterone level is high during this phase. So that's all about the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. Now let's see the hormonal control of cyclic changes in ovaries and uterus during menstrual cycle. Now in non-pregnant females, cyclic changes in the ovary and uterus during menstrual cycle are under the control of 3 sets of hormones. So that means if a female is not pregnant, then the menstrual cycle in the ovary and uterus is being controlled by basically by the 3 sets of hormones. So let's see what are the 3 sets of hormones. The first hormone is known as the ovarian hormone. Here, how many hormones do we get? In the ovarian hormone, we get estrogens and progesterone. So this is one set of hormone. And the second set is known as the gonadotropic hormones. It comprises of the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. And it is secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. That's why it is known as the gonadotropic hormones. And the third set of hormone is known as the gonadotropin releasing hormone. In short, it is also known as GnRH. These hormones are luteinizing hormone releasing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone releasing hormone. Now, this estrogen and progesterone are their secretion is under the control of the gonads, and the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone is under the control of ovarian hormones, and the gonadotropin releasing hormones. Then we have the gonadotropin releasing hormone. So this is it. Now let's see so this is how it is. Let's see the phases of menstruation here. So this is the menstrual cycle for 28 days. This stage starts first, the menstrual phase starts first. From the 1st to 5th day, what happens? You know that the uterus, the endometrial lining of the uterus will break down, and after that it will go into the follicular phase. Here what happens, there is an increase in the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone and estrogen, and the follicle starts developing here. And after that we will find the ovulatory phase where the ovum is released or the oocyte is released. And the 4th phase is known as the luteal phase where the progesterone level is very high, and you will find the corpus luteum, which is very much active only in this phase, and it develops itself also from the 15th to 21st day. And from here again it will repeat. After this, then menstruation will take place, and again the 28-day cycle will be complete, and again the menstrual phase starts. So this is all about the different hormones during the menstrual cycle. So let's see the 2 important terms related to menstrual cycle. The 2 important terms are menarche and menopause. So you might have heard the word menopause, but most of you may not be aware of the word menarche. So menarche is nothing but the appearance of the first menstrual flow in the life of a girl. That means when the girl gets her first menstruation, that is known as menarche. And menopause means the permanent stoppage of menstrual cycle in a woman. That means the woman or the female will no longer get her menstruation once she reaches this menopause stage. And when does it normally occur? It normally occurs between the age of 45 to 50 years. And menarche occurs at the age of 11 to 13 years. So during menopause, what happens? Why is there a stop in the menstruation? It's because during menopause, the primordial follicle of the ovary fails to respond to the pituitary gonadotropin, so that the Graafian follicles do not develop and ovulation does not take place. That means the primordial follicle will not be responding to the gonadotropin hormones, and if it does not respond to gonadotropin hormone, then the Graafian follicle will not develop. And if the Graafian follicle do not develop, if it does not mature, there will be no rupturing of Graafian follicle, and there is no rupturing of Graafian follicle means no ovum will be released, or in other words, no ovulation takes place, and hence the woman does not attain pregnancy anymore once she reaches menopause. Okay, so we also have another topic to discuss today, that is fertilization. You all know what is fertilization. Fertilization is the fusion of a haploid male and female gamete. So the male gamete is known as sperm and the female gamete is known as ovum, and they are both haploid in nature. We have discussed about this in oogenesis and spermogenesis. So there is spermatogenesis. So from there you know how the diploid cells becomes haploid cells, and these two haploid cells will fuse together and they will fertilize and once again give us a diploid fetus or a diploid organism or a diploid body. So now the following events take place in fertilization as well. The first event that takes place is known as insemination. Insemination means during copulation, male discharges about 3.5 ml semen in the vagina of female. And what happens when the semen is being discharged in the vagina, then this is known as ejaculation or insemination. A single ejaculate may contain about 200 to 300 million sperm. So once a male ejaculates and discharges the semen in the vagina of the female, it has around 200 to 300 million number of sperms, but only a few sperm are able to reach the fallopian tube. Why? Because a large number of them are killed by the acidity of female genital tract, and many are engulfed by leukocytes of vaginal epithelium. That is why you see that even though there are 200 to 300 million sperms released, only few will be able to reach the fallopian tube. However, only one will be able to fertilize. So after that is the next event, that is the movement of sperm. What happens to the sperm once it's released in the vagina? The sperm will swim towards the fallopian tube by the lashing movement of the tail, which you have seen the tail or the structure of the sperm. So it will lash its tail and move at the speed of 1 to 4 millimeter per minute, and the aspiratory action of uterus and peristaltic movements of fallopian tube propel the sperms upwards. So that means the uterus and the fallopian tube will let the sperm move upward, and these movements are initiated by a hormone called oxytocin. This hormone is released during copulation and also by the local action of prostaglandins present in the semen. Though a sperm can survive inside the female reproductive tract for 1 to 3 days, but it can fertilize the oocyte only within 12 to 24 hours of their release. That means once the sperm is released, it may survive in the female's body for 1 to 3 days. However, it will be able to fertilize the oocyte only within 12 to 24 hours of its release. Okay, so that is the movement of sperm. Next, we have the arrival of ovum. Now, after the semen is discharged and the movement of sperm has taken place, then now finally the ovum will arrive. So the ovum released by the rupturing of the Graafian follicle trickles down the fallopian tube and is received by the fimbriae of the fallopian tube. I've shown you the fimbriae, the fallopian tube in the female reproductive system, so you know where exactly it is located. So the ovum will be received by the fimbriae of the fallopian tube. And in human females, ovulation occurs at secondary oocyte stage. Remember the primary oocyte, the secondary oocyte stage, which we have discussed in oogenesis. So this ovulation will occur in the secondary oocyte stage, in which the second maturation division is yet to be completed. So the ovum is surrounded by follicle cells that are glued together by hyaluronic acid and form the corona radiata. Remember corona radiata? What is the function of corona radiata? It provides nourishment to the developing ovum. Okay, and the oocyte can survive for 72 hours but can be fertilized only during first 24 hours after ovulation. Ovum is also similar to sperm. It will survive for 1 to 3 days, but it can be fertilized only within 24 hours of its release. The next we have the capacitation of sperm. Activation of sperm for fertilizing the egg is called capacitation. That means once the sperm is activated for fertilizing the ovum, then it is known as the capacitation of sperm. And when sperm enters the female genital tract, they are not capable of fertilizing. As soon as they enter the genital tract, they are not able to fertilize the egg because substances called decapacitation factors cover the surface of the sperm head. So there's a substance called decapacitation factor which cover the surface of the head of the sperm. So the secretion of female genital tract activates sperms by introducing few changes like dilution of the inhibitory factors of semen. So the decapacitation factor will be activated by the release of the ovum during ovulation. So now we'll go to the fusion of gametes. So in fusion of gametes, what happens is that the sperm that reaches ampulla isthmus junction of the fallopian tube, or in simple words, the sperm that reaches the fallopian tube first comes in contact with the egg or the ovum, and a few changes takes place. What are the changes? These are the reactions that take place. The first changes is the acrosomal reaction. That means on coming in contact with the surface of the ovum, that is the sperm, when it comes in contact with the surface of the ovum, the acrosome of the sperm will release some kind of enzymes, and when it releases some kind of enzymes, it is called the sperm lysines. Okay, and after it releases the sperms, the enzymes, then next comes the sperm entry. That means as the first sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum. Zona pellucida layer is the protective layer of the ovum that I have shown you in oogenesis. So when it comes in contact with that, then it induces changes in the egg. The sperm will induce some changes in the egg membrane and the egg cytoplasm or the ooplasm. Firstly, what happens? It will block the entry of the additional sperm. As soon as it comes in contact with the zona pellucida, it will automatically block the entry of other sperms. Only one sperm have reached, and the other sperms, they are not allowed to enter anymore, so their entry will be blocked. And secondly, what happens? The egg cytoplasm or the ooplasm will extend around the head of the sperm and form the fertilization core, and finally it will engulf the sperm. Then only the head and middle piece of sperm enters the oocyte. The tail still remains out of the oocyte. It's only the head and the middle piece of the sperm that goes inside the oocyte. Then after that, we have the cortical reaction. The fusion of plasma membrane of sperm and egg. That means after the fusion of the plasma membrane and the egg, then what happens? There is another changes that follows, that is in the egg cortex. Now here what happens? What is the change? The cortical granules present under the plasma membrane of egg will fuse with the plasma membrane and release their enzymes, which will accumulate between the plasma membrane and the zona pellucida. That means there are some cortical granules that is present under the plasma membrane of the egg. So that plasma membrane will fuse with the plasma membrane and will release their enzymes, which will later on accumulate between the plasma membrane and the zona pellucida. This enzyme causes hardening of the zona pellucida. That means when this enzyme is released, then it will make the zona pellucida harder. That means it will block the entry of the sperm, and it will further prevent more entry of sperms. Okay. Then next we have the activation of egg. After the acrosomal reaction, after the sperm has entered, and after the entry of sperm has been blocked, then now the egg will be activated. The entry of sperm will evoke a chemical signal in the egg cytoplasm, and this what will happen then? It will cause the formation of fertilization membrane around the egg, which will block the entry of additional sperm inside the egg. I've already told you, once the membrane is being fertilized around the egg, then it will block the entry of the sperm, and the incapacitation of hundreds of sperm around the egg trying to penetrate. That means once the zona pellucida is blocked, then the other sperms that has been activated will be deactivated. So that means they will no longer be able to enter inside the oocytes. And the dispersal of follicle cells around the fertilized ovum will take place. That means the follicle cells will be dispersed around the fertilized ovum so that it can be fully protected. And then the second meiotic division is completed once the egg is activated. Then the last stage we have, that is the amphimixis. Inside the ovum, the sperm nucleus moves towards the egg nucleus along a definite path called the copulation path. That means once the sperm enters the ovum, then the nucleus of the sperm will move towards the egg nucleus and along one path only, and that path is known as the copulation path. It will not just go anywhere it likes, but it has to follow a single path, and that path is known as the copulation path. And the process of intermingling of the paternal and maternal chromosome is called amphimixis. That means the chromosomes from the female gamete and the chromosome from the haploid from the male gamete will be intermingling, or they will come in contact with each other. Then what will happen? Then that process where they come in contact with each other is known as amphimixis. And when this when they come in contact, then they are already fertilized, and so this fertilized egg is now called the zygote, and the zygote nucleus is called the synkaryon. So the entrance of sperm nucleus along with its centriole in the egg cytoplasm induces formation of spindle and prepares the zygote for first nuclear division. Now that the sperm has been blocked, the entrance of the sperm has been blocked, and the sperm nucleus has been moving with its centriole in the egg cytoplasm, so it will induce the formation of spindles. That means the spindles will be formed, and it will prepare the zygote for its first nuclear division. So the fusion of male and female pronuclei restores the original diploid number of chromosomes in the zygote nucleus. So once the zygote is formed, then it is here that the haploid chromosomes will once again become diploid chromosomes, and it also brings about the intermingling of the female and the male gametes. So the resulting offspring, that is why when the baby is born, or the resulting offspring, then you will see that the baby will receive the characters of both the father and the mother. So that is all about the events that takes place in fertilization. And now we have the significance of fertilization. Why is fertilization important? Because it is fertilization that will stimulate the secondary oocyte to complete its maturation to form haploid ovum. That means it is only when fertilization takes place, then the secondary oocyte will complete its maturation to form the haploid ovum. Otherwise, we will not get the ovum. And it will restore the diploid number of chromosomes in the zygote. Then after that, the haploid ovum will come in contact with the haploid sperm, and it will together restore the diploid number of chromosome in the zygote. And fertilization will also activate the egg to develop into a new individual after it has gone repeated mitotic divisions. And egg also becomes metabolically more active during fertilization, and it is in fertilization that the combination of the characters of two parents takes place, and the fertilization membrane will prevent polyembryony. So that is all about menstrual cycle and fertilization. Today I will come again with yet another topic in this chapter. So till then, stay home, learn at home, and stay safe. Bye.